All right, guys, so really quickly, I want to start this module off by kind of going over the basics of the Elementor builder, where everything is, and really how you're going to navigate the Elementor builder to build out what you want on Elementor. So, we already covered that there are sections and there are columns inside of the sections, right? And then you can drag intersections inside of those columns. So now let's talk about the settings for settings columns and elements on the page. So as I showed you guys before, you click on the section, those 6 little dots, to pull up the settings for it. As you can see, we have three different tabs for these settings. We have layout, style, and advanced. So in layout, you're going to have a few things. It's mainly going to be affecting, like, I guess as simple as it says, the layout of this section, right? So stretch section will usually push the page to push the content inside of that section to the edge of the page. This section is already set to full width. As you can see, we have boxed, where it's now not going towards the edges of the pages, or we can switch it to full width, where it is now going to the edge of the pages, or the edge of the page. Stretch section, I believe it's when it's boxed, you can set stretch section, it'll go all the way, but something's weird about stretch section. I've never really used it myself. I always just use it boxed and full width. So like I said, boxed keeps it within whatever number is here. So I guess max is 1600. Full width will make it go out to the bounds of the edges of the page, no matter what the size of the screen that the person is viewing it on is. We then have column gaps. I never really notice much of a difference when I use any of these settings. It's just the space between each of the columns, right? So I usually just keep that default. I don't really touch that. Then we have height. So we can have 3 options for height. We have default, which just keeps it the size of the elements inside, so it won't add any extra sizing. We have fit to screen, which will make it fit the screen no matter what size the screen is. So as you can see, it's going all the way down to the bottom of the screen. And then we have minimum height, where we're able to kind of control it like this. We can control how much space this section is going to take up. As we can see, on the minimum height, we have 3 different options here. We have px, which is how many pixels tall it's going to be. We have view h, or vh, which is view height. That's the percentage of the view height. So the view is the screen that the user is viewing the web page on, and the height is obviously the height of it, and this is a percentage value. So this is the percentage of the height. So 100 is the same as saying fit to screen, which is going to make it the max screen height. So yeah, you can adjust that to be how you want. So I'll set it to somewhere right there. View width, it doesn't really make sense because it's for height, but that's obviously the width of the screen. So I would just kind of stick to either view height or pixels. We'll just do view height right here. We'll make it somewhere around right there. Looks good. Column positions, I never use this setting either. As you can see, it's like, yeah, I don't really know, to be honest, what column position does. I kind of just keep it on stretch. That's the default. It'll make it the easiest for you to build things out. Vertical align, I showed you guys this earlier. So that's if we click on a column. If we click on a column and we have vertical height set to top, it'll align all the elements inside to the top. Set it to the bottom, it'll align them all to the bottom. Set it to the middle, and it will set them all to the middle. And then you have some settings like space evenly. So now it's spacing all of them evenly in the height of that element. Space around, which is similar. Space between, which will send them to the edges, but then it'll create space between the elements. I like to usually set middle for this just because it evens it out with the thing next to it. Let's go back to the section. Now we're back on the section settings, right? So vertical line, that's how it works. It'll just align everything to the middle, but you usually have to do that on the column state. We have overflow. So overflow is essentially allowing something to exit that section. So remember, actually we haven't gotten to that module yet. We're going to get to that later on in this lesson, in this module called advanced margin. which is negative margin, where you can use things to overlap, just like this element right here. This box right here is overlapping on this section. Overflow just means allowing this element to leave the bounds of the section that it's inside. So if overflow was hidden, so this is its own section, and this is a section right here, this is a column right here, right? So if we made this column stick out of that section by, again, you guys are going to learn this in a future module, by negative margin. Now you can see that this column is sticking outside of this section, right? So if I set the section to overflow hidden, it hides whatever's escaping the bounds of that section. So now when I switch this, let's change it to overflow default. As you can see, now it's showing the whole thing. So that's essentially what overflow is. And then that is the layout tab. Now we have the style tab, has things like the background types. You can set the background as a color. So if I want to set it to red, I can set it to a gradient. That's a gradient. I can set it to a video if I wanted. I can set it to a slideshow. And then the last option is setting it to an image. So I can set it to an image right there if I wanted. Let's delete that. Make this back to white. And then now let's say that I did set this section, this image as the background here. Now this is where you get more options, the position, attachment, repeat, size. So this is like, will the background repeat in that section right there? So I would click no repeat. You can change like the position of it. So I can make it the center. I can make it the top center. I can make it the bottom left, bottom right, top left, and it's just going to change the positioning of that background on this element. Size, you can change it from contain to cover. Cover makes sure that it covers the entire section. You almost always want it as cover. And then that's where background overlay comes in. So background overlay is going to be overlaying on top of this background. So if I wanted to make it white, for example, let's make it white, and now it added a white overlay on top of that. You can change the opacity right here. So I can lower that so that it's a bit more readable. You can even overlay an image with another image. That kind of creates a little messier thing, so I would kind of stay away from that. Oops, sorry. And then we have a bunch more here. These are kind of more, I don't really use these as much. Border is just a border. Simple as that. Shape divider at the bottom of the section. What shape do you want it to create? So you can create like a zigzag shape. Whoops, switch it to bottom. Drops, see, as you can see right here, it's creating like a drops type design behind it. There's a bunch of different ones in here. You can mess around with that, see what you like. Curve, all these different ones you can mess around with. And then advanced, in the advanced tab is where margin and padding are. These are the main two things that you're going to be using in the advanced section. And again, later on in this module of layouts, you're going to be learning about margin and padding, how it exactly works. So just like those are all these section settings, you also have element settings. Every element has its like own custom settings. So you can change the text here. The greatest design course. You can set a URL. You can change the alignment. In the style tab, you can change the color. So I can make it black. You can change the font here, font size, the weight. So like how bold is it? Like I said, as bold as I want. Transform it to be fully uppercase or default, blah, blah, blah. Line height, that's line height, letter spacing. And then again, in the advanced tabs, mostly what you're going to be using is margin and padding. So obviously, like I said, all elements are going to have different settings in there, and I can't really cover all of those in this module, but that's up to you to kind of mess around, see what everything has to do with customization, what tools are available to you. And yeah, that should make sense for that. After this, I will be teaching you guys about how the sections themselves work and how margin and padding works. So I will see you there.